Hey, welcome to Learning Excel, you glorious stack of brain folds. And welcome especially to this dive into the SAT reading and writing section. More specifically, words and context questions, part of the craft and structure topic. These videos move quickly, and it's recommended to pause along the way to try the questions yourself. So grab your pencils, open your mind palace, and let's talk about how the SAT tries to trick you, and how you can outsmart it. Alright, so first, what the heck are words and context questions? These little gremlins show up and ask you to do one of two things. Choose which word or phrase best completes the text, or determine what a word or phrase most nearly means in a specific sentence, a synonym for it. Sounds easy, right? But, spoiler alert, the SAT does not care what the word means in the dictionary. It cares what it means right there, in that exact sentence, based on context. Hence the name. Brilliant. So, what's the move here? Step 1. Do not look at the answer choices first. That's bait. Instead, go to the passage and read through to determine the main purpose. Then, identify subject and action in the sentence you're analyzing and the central claim being made by the text. In this easy example, the passage reads, "In the 1990s, conservationists began planting more than 500,000 native trees in the habitat of the Azores bullfinch to boost the bird's numbers. This approach was apparently blank. The Azores bullfinch's population size increased from as few as 100 birds at the end of the 1980s to around 1,300 in 2023. So here we can identify the purpose is to discuss a conservationist plan to increase a bird population. The subject of the sentence with the blank is this approach, which with context is that planting of native trees to increase the Azores bullfinch's population. Since we don't have the complete action here, we look at the context from the next sentence to see the Azores bullfinch's population increased as they planned it would. This means that the approach was good and went as planned, which corresponds with choice C. This next example is medium level, and it's a little different because it is a most near question with phrases, which means it's asking for a synonym to the underlined word. It reads, "The following text is adapted from Zora Neale Hurston's 1921 short story, John Redding Goes to Sea. John wants to travel far beyond the village where he lives near his mother, Maddie. John had on several occasions attempted to reconcile his mother to the notion, but found it a difficult task. Maddie always took refuge in self-pity and tears. Her son's desires were incomprehensible to her. That was all." As used in the text, what does the phrase, "reconcile his mother most nearly" mean? Here's where reading the initial context gets important. Here, this context provides vital information on the notion that John is reconciling his mother to, that being, to travel far beyond the village. So the purpose of this passage is to explain how John has been trying to get Maddie to not be so upset by the idea of him traveling far from home. John is the subject, and trying to get Maddie to not be so upset is the action, which tells us that John is trying to get her to accept or come to terms with the notion. Also, heads up, SAT loves to mess with common word traps. Words like subject, hold, assume, temper, and effect. These all have multiple meanings, and the SAT will throw the most familiar one at you, but not the right one. This is why we still follow the whole process, even if the word seems simple. As you advance your skills, you can learn to skim through this process, but still, we emphasize, always read the whole passage, as you cannot answer these questions without the context. For our last example, we have a difficult complete the text question with one-word answer choices. Now I've shown you two of these because they are more prevalent on the test. It reads, "The author's claim about the relationship between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens is blank, as it fails to account for several recent archaeological discoveries. To be convincing, his argument would need to address recent finds of additional hominid fossils, such as the latest Denisovans specimens and Homo longi. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase?" The purpose of this passage is to expand on the author's claim that the relationship between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens is blank. The sentence we're focused on, the author's claim is blank. Ridiculous, right? But through the context of the sentences that follow, we know that the author's claim about Neanderthals and Homo sapiens fails to account for recent discoveries. That weakens the argument. It doesn't hold up against new evidence. Now, paraphrase it, the author's claim is weak or shaky because it ignores important new fossil finds. The word tenuous means exactly that, something weak, fragile, or poorly supported. In this context, the author's claim is being described as weak because it overlooks key information. That makes B, tenuous, the most logical and precise word to complete the sentence. Now, you may be thinking, hey, I didn't know what tenuous meant. And that's where I gotta tell you about the hardest part of this section. actually understanding the vocab. The best way to get better? Read like a lot. But if you're crunched for time and binge watching Netflix isn't helping, brute force memorization works too. I'll drop some Quizlet links below with common SAT words and root words to help you muscle up that vocabulary. All right, recap time. Paraphrase the word yourself. Plug in choices and check for tone and logic. Beware of trap definitions that are dictionary correct but context wrong. And study that vocab. And hey, if this helped clarify things and you want more bite-sized SAT wisdom straight to your brainstem, go ahead and do that clicky on the subscribe button. You got this. See you in the next one.